right. Thought I would mix things up a bit today and change the scene because it's cold, it's yuck, it's the start of autumn, and I figured I should do probably a bit of an introduction around who I am, why I started this page, and what the intention is. So stick around. So first things first, who am I? My name is Kayla and I'm an ADHD informed coach. I am based here in New Zealand. I live in Napier in the east coast of the North Island. I might try and do a little map there to see where it is. But the main reason I wanted to even start a YouTube account is I have been posting on social media. So I have an Instagram account, which I've grown to 16,000, I think now. I've got TikTok, which is also going around. I think I'm just over 7,000 over there. I also post quite regularly on LinkedIn. I actually quite enjoy LinkedIn. And I thought YouTube would be another challenge because ADHD, right? Love a challenge. I also wanted to document a bit more of the behind the scenes of what being an entrepreneur with ADHD and autism is like. So I am diagnosed ADHD myself. I was diagnosed 2 years ago at 35, and about 6 months later, I kind of started to suspect that maybe there was something else at play. So whilst I'm not officially diagnosed autistic yet, it is a thing I'm going to be exploring in the future, hopefully soon. And this is actually my second business. And that's what I kind of want to talk about today, because my first business, I always viewed as a failure. I thought it had, I'd let myself down and I never actually went through with it. And I think when I look back into it now, I can see that it was actually just, I was undiagnosed. I didn't fully understand my brain. I didn't understand the challenges, the unique challenges that came with my brain and trying to run a business. And I can now look back on it with a lot more kindness and softness to be like, well, I did the best of the time with the tools I had, right? Because something that I recognized probably 5 or 6 years ago now was that traditional work, it's just not for me. I've tried. like I've tried everything. I often joke I've worked in every industry, and I almost think I have. Like, I was retail during school. I went to university. I actually got a degree in building science, bachelor's degree in building science, where I studied architecture alongside architecture students and things like that. But when they went into their design and the fancy drawings and things, I went into the scientific side of things, so more structural management, environmental, project management, things like that. So I qualified with a project management qualification and environmental science within building science. But after 4 years of university, I was like, look at that. And I went traveling. So I ended up in Edinburgh in the UK, and I loved it. I ended up working in pubs, and I really came out of my shell while I was over there. And I just kind of associate it with, again, traveling, exciting, fun, but it was just the environment, the people, the, pubs are obviously lively. There was live music every single night of the week. Like, it was just coming and going, and I was just in my element, and I absolutely loved it. And I found something that I was really, really good at, which was bartending and, just working in hospital, running tables, things like that. I really enjoyed it. I stayed there for 2 years, and when I moved back when my visa was up, didn't want to come back to New Zealand just yet. I was only 25, I wasn't done having fun. So I moved to Melbourne, Australia, where I ended up spending 7 years almost. And it was in Melbourne, I really struggled to find who I was. I had this incredible time overseas, and then felt quite lost, and so I really bounced around a few more jobs. I started as a travel agent, hated that. Ended up selling diploma courses to IT students. I did a bunch of other little smaller jobs, and then ended up in construction working with a contracting company. They were doing steel work, concrete, things like that. And that kind of got my foot in the door with construction, which was what I had trained in. So that then led to almost 10 years of being in construction. So I climbed my way up. I ended up being the project manager that I trained to be. And whilst there were so many aspects of it that I really, really enjoyed, again, fast-paced, chaotic, constant to think on your feet, and no 2 days are the same. There were a lot of things I really struggled with, and a big part of it was like the administration side of it, the actually managing the contracts. And I could never understand why I'd read a page and just nothing would sink in, and I'd feel so stupid, and I'd be so mean to myself, even though I knew I was doing a good job. And I bounced around within the industry too. So I had many different roles across quite a few different companies, because they always kind of followed the same cycle of I'd come in and I'd be 3 months, of the star employee, and then it would just all fall apart, and I would collapse, or I'd burn out, or I would get in trouble, or, end up in mediation, I wish, mediation, and it always ended badly. And again, that cycle of shame of like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just stick with a job? Everybody else can. I'm watching my friends, climb the career ladders, and like, why can't I? And it was during when I was in construction that I started looking into tradies, mental health and wellbeing. Construction has some of the highest rates of suicide. I realized I was part of the problem a little bit, being the one putting the pressure and the deadlines and the, I need this done, I need that done. And it never really sat right with me, and I wanted to do more to help because I myself used to have really low tendencies. I would get into some really dark, scary places and mindset. As many ADHD, autistic people experience is, the doctors, well, it's just your hormones, it's just anxiety, it's just depression. I always knew it wasn't. So when I got my diagnosis, again, just over 2 years ago, but it's been about a 3-year journey prior to that, just with wait times and things like that, changed my life, and it's saved my life. And it's something I speak openly about on a lot of my channels, and just learning how my brain works and how best to work with it has been transformational. And like I mentioned, it's like a really big part of that was recognizing that traditional work, probably not for me. So my first venture into tradies mental health and wellbeing, I was running a few workshops and trainings just around like, what is wellbeing and what does it look like on a building site? Because I always had like a really deep empathy with the trades on building sites. I recognized a lot of what I know now to be my traits in a lot of the tradies, because typically speaking, these were the people who were told that they were too dumb for school, or that they're no good at this. They know that they're better with their hands. They like being outside. They like moving, and I always felt really at home with them. So again, once I got my diagnosis, it started to make a bit more sense. But where I really fell unstuck with the business I was trying to do, and I was still working as well, I would just get so in my way, and I can look back and recognize how much I self-sabotaged, like how much I prevented that from being a success, because I didn't know how to work on my brain. This was still pre-diagnosis. I didn't know why rejection was so painful. I didn't know like why I could see the big picture but not know where the first step was. I didn't fully understand that my energy isn't just a bottomless pit, and that I am going to have little crashes, and it's going to be really hard work. And that's Frank. I also have 2 dogs and a cat, so they may make an appearance at some point because I'm lower and on their ground. Can you say hello? Hi. And so that's why I really wanted to start this YouTube page, was to really talk about the challenges being AuDHD, trying to run a business, trying to work through all of the challenges that I kind of naturally have, and how can I better leverage the strengths I have? What tools can I use to support me during all of this? And what kind of boundaries or systems and things can I put in place that are actually going to help me get there? Because I think it could help other people too. So first up, I'm going to start with ADHD because I believe that is my more dominant side. I think anybody with ADHD will know it can be really hard work existing in this little brain. One of the biggest challenges is obviously with executive dysfunction, in that my executives do not function on certain tasks, and there are so many things that I just find really challenging. And if it's something that doesn't interest me, good luck getting it done. So things like taxes, finances, sales, basic admin, like won't do it. I also have really poor time management. I'm time blind. I'm very time blind. And so I struggle to kind of put, time frames, a thing of like, oh, okay, well, I want to launch this product 1st of April. Oh, that's ages away. No, it's next week. And then as well, just literally managing my own time, because as of October, I left full-time work and I now do a part-time contract, which is all remote, just work from home. But that just kind of helps pay the bills, and it's like my little safety net, and it's work I really enjoy doing. So like, it's okay. But because of that, I don't have my usual structure of, get up in the morning, take the dogs for a walk, go for, shower, get dressed, things like that, and then go to an office where you work for the day and then come home. And so without having that routine and that structure, I've actually really struggled, because ADHD part of me and the autistic side, actually, I hate being too rigid on systems. I'm not sure if you can see, but Frank has just come down to say hello again. But if it's too rigid and too like tight structured, I get really suffocated and I start to just kind of repel it and don't want to do it. So it's finding that balance of like having a routine but also needing to rely on essentially my own willpower to have that routine, because there's no external accountability. There's no, well, actually, you're meant to be at your desk at 9 o'clock or something like that, because the work I do, again, it's fully remote, it's fully flexible. And then the only real kind of set times I have is coaching calls. So if someone books in, like I know a good few days in advance, sometimes weeks in advance, when the coaching calls are. But otherwise, my days are a bit moo, and that's a challenge. And with the ADHD side is probably my biggest work on, or my biggest challenge is rejection sensitive dysphoria. And I've come moonbeams from how I was when I first started looking into ADHD and RSD. RSD was actually one of the first things I worked on prior to getting a diagnosis. Thankfully I was already in therapy, and we did almost a full year of unpacking just where it was showing up for me. And spoiler alert, it was everywhere. It was in obviously the fear of rejection, criticism, failure, but it was that internal critic was so loud, and it was that hypervigilance of, oh, but I need to be perfect, I need to be doing all these things. So I had this like intense perfectionism that was just crippling, to be honest. And then as well, just the mental challenges that come with like putting yourself out there, being judged. Obviously, I worked in construction for a very long time, and construction is famously not a very kind industry. I'm a woman, so 3 guesses how that went for me. So there was a lot of shame and fear that I've really had to kind of work through over the last 3 years. And then we have finances, and obviously this is not a trait or a symptom of ADHD, right? But the finances are boring. They bring a lot of shame for me, so I don't want to do them. So I avoid them like the plague, which you can't really do when you run a business, turns out. You end up with massive tax bills. Learned that one the hard way. So I've had to do a lot of work around getting really clear on what my numbers are and like where money is coming in, where it's going. And I'm not there yet, but I am definitely getting a better picture of where it's all at, which is like, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good with that direction it's going. Could always need a bit more improvement, a bit more work, but I'm going to be working with an accountant going forward, because up until this point, I've been sole trader and I'm shifting to company. So there's a bit more of things that I need to step up the second time around, because my first attempt with the tradie business was a company, massive tax bill. So I'm trying to do things better this time around, now that I know how my brain works. And then the other thing I really struggle with is systems. So again, I know what the big picture is, I know where I want to end up, but I get really overwhelmed with, well, what's step one? How do you build that in place? And if I do build that in place, how do I rely on my working memory to remember that that's even a thing that I'm meant to be doing? If it's out of sight, it's out of mind. So a lot of the programs and things like that like, unless they're jumping out at me, I forget they exist. And without that kind of system in place, that structure, those routines, it's really challenging. Because again, like I not only do my own coaching business and trying to build whatever this is going to end up being, I've got the different content platforms. I'm doing a lot of things, a lot of juggling, a lot of balls in the air, but I also work. So I have to do that work too. So there's just a lot to manage up here. And I've kind of touched on the other one, but like consistency. I really struggle with consistency, because consistency is boring and I forget to do it. So that has been a very big challenge for me. And at the end of the day, like I'm interest driven. I'm not importance driven. So if the interest is running down a rabbit hole on YouTube, then I'm going to do it. If the interest is when I'm sitting there doom scrolling and, oh, what's this? Oh, what's this? Oh, if I'm using AI, hey, would you like me to build this next? Oh, go on. It's how do I rein that back into a way that's somewhat controlled, but I've still got that interest there and it's enough to keep me motivated, enough to keep me going, but I'm within my window that I need to be. Like, what is going to be moving me forward? What's going to move the needle right now? And what little steps can I take right now that are going to get me to just that next level or the next product or whatever it might be. So it's been a real challenge. And then we look at the other side of things, the autistic side. And as I say, I didn't really realize this about myself until post ADHD diagnosis. So I was like, oh, something doesn't quite add up. There's still something not quite, the puzzle's not all there. And when I started learning about ADHD in particular, it was like, oh, that's it. Those are the missing pieces, right? And with that alone, that came a whole other identity shift and another crisis of well, who am I? I don't actually know who I am anymore because everything I thought I was, maybe it was just masking, what goes where, who am I? And I also realized just how much I was masking, how much I was putting on that face to just be able to show up, to just exist, and especially in the workplaces and things like that. And it got so bad last year. I'd left construction and I was working as a health coach in a GP clinic. I enjoyed the work, but it was quite intense face-to-face, just back-to-back meetings all day, every day. Or you'd have these big gaps with no one. And I was stuck in this little consult room. So I'm all over the place. I'm distracted. I'm getting frustrated because nothing to do and you're just stuck in waiting mode because what if your 1 o'clock cancels and then you're sitting there and your 1 o'clock does cancel, but then someone turns up at 1:30, it was just this constant push, pull. So when I got home from work most days, I couldn't function. I couldn't cook dinner. I couldn't speak. I couldn't, there were so many things that I just could not do because I was just burnt out. And it was a different burnout from previously where I had kind of always managed to just kind of push through. But I think because by that point I had got somewhat of a understanding of my ADHD traits and had learned to kind of look after that and nurture that a bit better, that the autism was hi, been here the whole time. And it was really another big challenge. And then you add pathological demand avoidance with, demands that I was even putting on myself. So there was just general demand avoidance where it was oh, no, I don't want to do that. Or physically, I'm having a visceral reaction to this. It's instant anxiety. I don't want to do it, just the aggression. And it would be over silly things of just someone maybe even catch me off guard or hey, you said you'd do this, where is it? And it was really a challenge to realize just how much PDA was actually showing up, not just in my day-to-day, but in my business and how I was showing up and how I was trying to do these things. And then when you look at trying to run a business, right, a big part of it is networking and sales. And from an autistic point of view, no. I just want to be cozy. I just want to be comfy. I want things to just magically appear, because networking and things like that, that's when I feel I have to put the mask on and it's exhausting. And I feel like I have to constantly over-explain myself, or I say something and then I'm just thinking, oh gosh, what did I say that for? Reading social cues and picking up on, people's body language and things, and, talking to someone for a second and thinking, oh my God, this person hates me because I was going to read on all the bits, and it's just, how do you filter that information? And then you come home and you think, what even happened tonight? I feel like I've blacked out from whatever that was, and it was so intense, then you need 2-3 days to kind of recover from something like that. So it's been hard. So that's why I do lean a bit more into online space, because it just feels a bit safer. And I spoke earlier about the ADHD side of me, not wanting routine but needing it, and then my autistic side's where's my routine? I need my structure. I need my predictability. I don't want lots of change, which obviously entrepreneurship naturally brings. It's quite, up and down. You might have a cracker week one week and think, oh my gosh, I've made it. This is it. And then crickets for weeks afterwards. So it's just that constant threat on your nervous system of what's safe, what's normal, what's good, what's happening. I don't know. And then there's, the hyperfocus, the fixating on things and the special interests. And like I said before, it's about, well, how do I rein it in? How do I channel it? But also it's that detail, oh no, I need to get to the bottom of this. I need to get this solved. I can't just let it slide. It has to be perfect, and that's a real challenge to rein myself back from, to be well, actually done is better than perfect. 70% is better than, 100%, or the 0%, sorry. I've got to learn to be okay with that. And so when I look at my first business to kind of where I am now, I've had to really build my confidence because I got absolutely shattered in employment. I've had to build my self-trust and my own sense of safety around like feeling safe to be seen as who I am, like unapologetically me, and just learning to love the way my brain works rather than hating my brain and hating how I go in these loops and cycles and ruminating moments, and just, well, how do I manage all of that whilst getting to where I want to be? And then you got like spiky profiles, you know, there's just boom, 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 boom. Some things I'm really good at, some things I'm really bad at, some things I just do really easily, and other things I struggle. I'd rather pull my own teeth out or something. And it's just that constant battle of like easeful or impossible, no in between. So what things have I been doing? Number one, I have been working on my energy. So I have been learning to work with my energy. I've been learning to manage my energy, pick up when I'm in my beast mode days where I'm just like, boom, 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 like I'm productive, I'm on fire. And then respecting the days where I need to be a slug. I need to just stop. I need to just rest. Like I work in sprints, not marathons, and that's okay, because when I'm sprinting, woo, I'm unstoppable. Number two has been really leaning into my strengths, the things that I'm good at, and then trying to outsource the stuff I'm not so good at. So currently, just with financial means and things like that, like I am leveraging AI in this area, and it's been transformative. Like it's just, I'm not using it to create. I'm not using it to, you know, create silly pictures or videos or whatever. I'm literally getting it to help me with the boring task, or I, you know, brain dump the big idea and tell me where do I need to start. It's helping me articulate and get clear on things like that. And it's really, really helped just bolster my natural strengths. And I've noticed I'm not as cognitively cooked because I'm outsourcing my cognitive load so that I'm able to be more creative and have a bit more play. And recently I've been doing more painting and drawing and writing. I've actually been using this journal. Like it hasn't just ended up in the pile with the others. Like it's because I've got capacity now. Third thing is that I've been getting really firm on my boundaries. I've been getting a lot clearer around my working hours and kind of what things I'm willing to do and what things I'm not wanting to do. And also trying to reduce the need to people please and to say yes to everybody, and learn to be like, well, actually, no, this is the type of person I actually really love working with. Like it's niching down, right? It's sussing out, well, who do I enjoy working with? Who lifts me up? Who brings me energy versus who drains me? And just that shift alone has been really cool. And again, it's a privilege that I have now that I'm not in full-time work, but I strongly encourage any kind of flexibility or routine there, because if your energy is not right and you just keep pushing, that's where you end up with the burnout. Number 4, and I touched on this before, but done is better than perfect. So this came after doing a lot of work on the rejection sensitivity side of things and recognizing that, well, actually, like I can't improve, I can't, grow and adjust and do whatever I need to do if I do not have data, if I do not have information. So I need to put stuff out there in order to tweak and to listen and be like, okay, that's hasn't landed well, or no one really responded to that, or oh my gosh, people love that. And to do that, I've had to really let go of any kind of perfectionism, of that fear of being criticized and things, and just put it out there. And something that actually helped me massively in that area was I just joined a silly little post on LinkedIn challenge, and it was post every day for 90 days, I think it was. People who were running it, they literally had a spreadsheet and stuff, so you could see like it was a challenge and it was fun. And that really helped me bust through the cringe of posting online. And it was from there that I started thinking, okay, maybe I should play around a bit with TikTok and videos, talking to camera kind of style. And I chose TikTok because I personally wasn't on TikTok. I didn't have any followers or friends or whatever. So I just created a new account and just started trying it out to see how that felt, got more comfortable with that, and then started doing the same on Instagram, which is where I had people that I knew, and it was a bit more, it felt less anonymous, so it felt a bit more risky. But I'd grown that muscle from LinkedIn and from TikTok and then progressed it over. So then jumping to YouTube felt really easy because I'd done a lot of work to get to this point. And the last one, number 5, was I simplified my tech stack. I realized just how much I was getting overwhelmed because classic ADHD, I'd barreled down, being like, oh, I need to have this and this and this, and everybody's telling me that you've got to have this platform, and no, you need to use this for your marketing, and blah, blah, blah. So I went and I'd got onto I won't mention who they are, but quite a big all-in-one package CRM thing, which would be incredible if I had a team, but it's just me. And I found that, even if I wanted to just make like a little lead magnet or an Instagram, comment burnout and get my book, there was like 27-step process, and it was just so challenging and so frustrating. And you'd do it, and then half the time it wouldn't work. And I was just getting really like avoidant with it because it was just so hard. And so I had to get really quite brutal with myself to be like, well, okay, this isn't a failure. This is not a failure. This is just, actually, that doesn't work for me. And the best systems are the ones that you use, right? So again, using Claude, I have just helped to strip it back to something that's way more sustainable, so much simpler. And already I'm seeing progress there because I'm actually using it. I've made it so easy that now I can just do it. I did the same a while back with my social media. I spent so long trying to build Canva templates and make it pretty. And one day I just thought, actually, this is hard, because then I get stuck down the rabbit hole trying to find the perfect template. And oh no, what do I do? So I just started, putting photos with just text over the top, and they were performing. It was easy. I didn't have to think. I could just do it on the fly, and it reduced that friction. So I've been looking at ways to reduce the friction to just, again, help with that cognitive load, and it's been awesome. That's right. That's the end of my little notes that I had for this one. I just wanted to do a bit more of a like, who am I? Why am I here? What's the intention? Because I realized I hadn't actually done that. I just jumped straight into trying to make videos. And I realized as well that I was putting a lot of pressure on myself, thinking, oh, but it needs to follow the structure, or it needs to do all these things, so that I wasn't doing it. So I thought, let's just strip it back to basics, pop me on my little stool with my cup of tea with my little unicorn mug, and I'm going to handwrite some notes and have a bit of a yap and see how it goes. And yeah, welcome along with the journey. Hopefully some of what I have talked about, maybe if it's resonating with you as well, or you're wanting to know how I've done any of the things I've talked about. So I will only ever talk about things that I'm comfortable in either teaching or have gone through myself. So if any of this is resonating and you're wanting to like work through things yourself, I do one-to-one coaching with people. I also have a range of digital products, and I've got some online courses. One in particular, which I think would be really useful, is the unmask method. And it's literally everything I did to unmask. Like, how did I do it? What steps did I take? It's loaded with information. There's a little workbook. It's all nice, easy, digestible sections. And if you've watched this video, like, the whole course won't be too much longer. So it's not hours and hours and days. Like, it's just a couple of hours max. And I'll pop the link for some of my other downloads that I've got available down the bottom. But otherwise, hit subscribe and we'll see how we go. Thank you for being here.